They wouldn't benefit by having stretch assignments given to them probably more easily. They'd have a mentor to talk to about issues that they may be facing. I do know women who still struggle in the workplace with harassment, pay inequity, some pretty substantial issues. So the intent of having an inclusive workplace culture, or people that get it, like a company that is actually operating in that mindset, is that you would have that space to air your concerns and be heard in a way that I would argue the traditional workplace cultures have not provided. It's still a struggle. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of work to do in the fourth sector. Yeah. Yes, 100%. In fact, I would say look at the free to grow as a pilot approach in forging a path that hasn't been done before. Like I say, it's going to be showcased at the World Forest Congress. The world is looking at what we're doing with free to grow. I was asked to go down to the States, for example, last March and start up something similar, but in the US. So we've created what's called an inclusion council down there, again, comprised of public, private, not-for-profit, and Indigenous representatives. And in their own context, starting to forge a path on what they can do. So the last webinar we had in December, for example, had people from Europe participating. And like we're kind of making a movement. But definitely what we've done here in forestry has applicability in any sector. It's just having the leadership. It all comes down to leadership of an organization to take the helm and do it, and then have that pursuit of funding to follow. Well, I guess it's the workplace culture. It's that traditional mindset that comes with the territory right now. With all due respect to guys, like they have a certain way of being. And it's known fact that if you put one woman in a group of guys, it changes the dynamic. But it's hard to have it really shift unless you have at least 3 women, they say, and say in a group of 12. So the workplace culture is the biggest one because there's a lot of stereotypical behaviors and biases that continue to persist and make it really tough for women to hang in there. And that's why you see, or we've seen so many leave within the first 5 years. It's just too much. Like, it's exhausting. I'm pretty much made of kryptonite, so I've had a lot of things thrown at me repeatedly over time, and personally and professionally. And you'll learn more about that if you get my book. But it just requires, positive outlook and perseverance and a higher purpose. For what I'm doing, it requires that commitment to a higher purpose of trying to make change and being committed to that. But yeah, it's tough for women. It's still tough for women. But I think there's the Free to Grow initiative, since it started like 5-6 years ago now, it's made a huge impact. I've been told this repeatedly by a lot of people, that we're starting to see demonstrable shifts happening. I've been met with a lot of resistance from executives in the forest sector, and some pretty low ball behavior, which I won't get into, but it's been shocking to experience the level of undermining and behavior that can take place. Yeah, and a lot of it's about having comfort with shifting power. Inclusive leadership is about sharing power to a certain extent. I mean, recognizing, ultimately one person has to decide at the end of the day. It's not taking that away, but it's to say, hey, you know what, we've been, a couple of key players on this playground, let's say in the Canadian forest sector, for a long time doing everything. But it's okay if there's others that come in and do things to help, the agenda overall. But some people still have trouble letting go of that, I think, and needing control. So that just takes time. It's not, this sort of thing it's a change management initiative. And that's the way I describe it to people, is that, like the first phase of this initiative is all about building awareness and creating that desire to make a change. And we definitely achieved that. Phase 2 is all about giving the skills and knowledge to people so that they can onboard these things. And some of that's done individually as behaviors that need to be onboarded. And then there's organizationally what we can do. And then giving people that recognition to show that success stories, whether it's as an individual, a company, or the sector overall. So that's the big picture of what we're trying to do. And I think that, I've always thought it takes anywhere from 5 to 10 years to really effectively see it change. So we're in year 5. Huge change has already started. If further funding comes, then, people can continue to champion this. I can see a realistic shift within 10 years. And I think that approach could be taken to any sector.
Yeah, it can take a lot of effort, but the fruition of it is it's important for sure.
Yeah, and we're going to see different age groups leave the sector, let's say, which will breathe new life. Now, having said that, we've obviously had generation after generation previous that you could have said could have done the same thing, but we didn't have something like Free to Grow on the radar. So what we need is to keep the pedal to the metal. We need to keep it moving. And I think for some people, this project has probably gone too fast. It drives me crazy because they know if you actually listen to when gender equality is going to happen, they say it won't happen until 2186. Absurd. So, but I think I was actually making some pretty major mountains move here in Canada within a very short period of time. And I think it causes some people to be uncomfortable. There's a lot of fear associated with this change. Well, I think that there's awareness across the country in all sectors, right? I think that the resource sectors are quite male-dominated traditional mindsets. So it is tougher to move them. But yeah, change is happening very slowly, like glacial. I can tell you when I was a young whippersnapper in my 20s, I had this great job with Environment Canada working on the United Nations file, and I had to go across Canada to do stakeholder consultation. It was the very first year, so we're talking 1996, the very first year that a woman was allowed at the, I'm having a mental block, the Association for Oil and Gas, what's it called? You guys are out there in Alberta. The big one. Anyway, I'm having a mental block. Pardon me?
Is it CAP? Like
yeah, CAP, that's it, CAP, thank you. Yeah. So it was the first year that they were letting women into CAP. And I was like, what? Like, I thought it was a joke. So we've come some distance since then, obviously. However, it's still tough for the women in those sectors. I worry about some women in those sectors in the sense that some of them who have been there a long time become like the personalities of some of these guys. And they're tough nuts. And it's not really, it's a product of their environment. You know what I mean? So some of that is shifting, but you really need a critical mass of people to be working collaboratively, I think. And I think that the way Free to Grow has gotten a lot of attention from a lot of other sectors. And I noticed that there's a mining, it's so funny because I started with mining, but I noticed there was one request for proposal to do a whole sector-wide shtick like this, I think, in mining. But it's a very, this kind of work is, we're creating new stuff. We're motivating people, not easy, right? And it's a lot of emotional work because you have to constantly deal with crazy pushback. Yeah, I don't know what you mean in terms of the magnitude, but sure, there's executives who say they want to, this is a common thing that happens in this space, doesn't matter if it's forestry or anywhere. Yeah, we want to do something. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we want this. And it's like, okay, well, I need you to do this. I need you to stop interrupting people at meetings. I need you to rotate the chair. I need you to, give equal opportunity to your female colleagues for stretch assignment. And then it just is a little bit harder to onboard. So it just takes, feet to the fire on ensuring that people follow through with their intention, because we all have good intentions, but the hard work comes with actually shifting your behavior so that the workplace is okay. Like, common problem, yelling in a boardroom, okay, swearing, losing it, not uncommon, very strong personality types. They're A-type personalities, okay, and they're guys. I had 3 brothers growing up, all older brothers. I understand, and that's probably why I used to say, why am I in this family? Now I know why. It is that personal experience that I'm able to apply to deal with some of these guys. And they have covert ops. They say one thing, they don't mean it. Like, I've been lied to, I've been manipulated, and I've just been blown away by the behavior. I'm like, seriously, we're professional. This is what you've got? Like, we got to raise the bar. We got to get out of, like, Flintstones. I'm not sure if you guys know Flintstones. I grew up on Flintstones. We got to get out of that mindset of, with some respect to these guys, ignorance and arrogance. They don't know the topic, but they think they do. Like saying, oh, well, why are you focusing on the white man in the forest sector? I'm like, well, who else is there? Who else is there? We've already had the facts. 17% are women and less are underrepresented. Therefore, the biggest bang for your buck here is talking to the white man. Might be uncomfortable, and it's not meant to put people on the defense, but it is meant to say, we have to own some of this. We have to recognize where our part is if we're truly committed to making a change. You have to, well, you should take the training. There's things you can do just to have an understanding of the skills or the traits of an ally. It's being very empathetic. It's operating with curiosity. So learning about other cultures, not putting the onus on the other person to teach you. There's some responses on things, like sometimes we trip up on what we're saying or doing. And there's a lot of fear associated with being perfect on this topic. I'm a real proponent of making things light. I think that's how we engage better. Ears open up. When I started the Free to Grow second phase, for example, I was doing Zoom video clips of me from the Star Trek Jean-Luc Picard Enterprise seat. I'm trying to get them, because this topic, respectfully, can be as dry as toast. And people are tired of being talked to about it. They feel defensive that they're being blamed for what history has done, right? So we have to just operate with the continuous learning mindset. We have to think about learning all the time, how we can understand other cultures better, understand the new immigrants that are coming to Canada. You just have to flick on the news and you'll see the craziness that's going on in the world. We should have huge empathy for these people. Okay, but what do? We're giving them shots. Okay, like even within my space, obviously I'm a privileged person in Canada. I'm a white woman. I've had to work very hard for everything I've got. Nobody's ever given me a dime, but people will look at me as I'm privileged. And I am, because I do have certain doors that open because I'm white, or have because I'm white. And I have to recognize that. I have to own that. And so when it comes to someone who's coming straight from new to this country, I need to say, hey, you know what? I can help you. I know I can help you with things. Let me introduce you to a network that you wouldn't otherwise access. So there's all kinds of things. I'm actually doing a talk on allyship on March the 7th. It's for the Women in Forestry event. If you guys are on LinkedIn, I just put a post out about it today. I say, get your ninja on. Got all these ninja people and roles to play. But March 7th, free, okay, sign up. Same for, what's the next one? April 27th. I'm doing a whole thing on a webinar through Free to Grow on allyship. And I'm bringing in somebody to talk about bystander syndrome and an author on allies. So that's another one that'll be good, because the one on March 7th is just me and I'm having some panelists. And then this 27th of April will be a deeper dive and include some of the research I did on allyship for Free to Grow, which is a whole journey. I talk about a journey spectrum. So you're asking your question about how do you do this? If you attend that, you'll learn some more about that too. But yeah, I could talk about that for hours. Actionables. Well, I would say depending on your sort of sphere of influence, like if you're young and just starting out, there's things that we just talked about. But if you're able to get to a sponsor, for example, who is on the executive table for your company or organization, or even within your university, and share with them the rationale. Sometimes we're still dealing with people who want to understand why they have to do something. And you can articulate to them, this is why, this is how it's going to help either attract more students, therefore more funding, get more publications made, or reach a new customer clientele that you wouldn't otherwise. So for example, women who are now in forest companies, if they're in the sales section of things, they're getting to more women who are becoming owners of forest land because they're inheriting it. So there's a lot more women as clients, and women like to deal with women. And there's a reason for that, because they get often taken for granted or taken, like you go to a mechanic as a woman, same thing. It just gives you a little more credibility for a woman to woman. So it's not that we don't trust men, Ryan, I'm telling you, we trust you. It's more that there's just a level of comfort, just like men have more comfort with men, right? But if you recognize that your client base has more purchasing power and there are more clients to be tapped that are women, who better to put in front of that client than someone that they're most comfortable with, right? It's economics, really. So when you can make those conversations happen with somebody who's in a position of influence and get them to start shifting the mindset in the corporate side, well, then you're starting to make change happen. And you can be that champion at your level. You could be creating a DEI team, committee, and start championing that through the company or the organization. I'm doing that right now with a company down in the States. It's very exciting. If you're seeing change. Well, I guess the best thing is I want people to know to enter into it with curiosity, because so many people have preconceived notions and we need to listen more. A lot of Canadians haven't done a lot of international travel, and when they see a different looking person, they recoil. And instead of recoiling, I would encourage all Canadians to embrace that new person. Like in my neighborhood, I have lots of different diversity. And I'm always saying hi. I mean, some of them are like, I don't know, maybe I'm too social. Some people aren't comfortable. It's COVID. People are a little bit more like hermits, hiding in their coats. It's winter. But I try my best to lead by example, like be that role model. Don't let other people run you down, right? Like that's part of it too. So enter others with other relations with curiosity, and don't let other people tell you not to. Like we need to be embracing change, especially in Canada now. with the level of immigration we have and need. It's like, it's not an option. So you can either go the painful route or you can go the easier route. And my advice is the easier route. I mean, I've been blessed with a lot of international travel. I've gone to Africa several times, India, South America, Europe, all over the place. Had some great experiences. I appreciate Canada. People who come here from Canada appreciate Canada. So all of that to say, enter into their mindset of what they are coming here for, and try and connect with them and recognize that they are displaced. And we have a lot to offer and we have a lot to learn. Sorry, I went on and on again. That is exactly the report that came out of the first pillar of activity. And there's never been anything like it in Canada. So we brought things together for the first time, all the data we could get our hands on. And then we were saying, okay, here are the gaps. With that gap information, that's where we need to go back for funding to fulfill those gaps. Have we been successful with that yet? Honestly, I haven't been a part of that piece of the equation, so I haven't been pursuing it personally. Is there an opportunity? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, through NSERC programs, for example, in academia circles, there should be professors combined. That was one of the beauties of the structure of the committee that we had. You could have industry involved with academics and go for funding in ways you couldn't before. So with NSERC, for example, for those who don't know, academic pursuits for government money, great, but they always want to have corporate involved. We had that right at the table. A no-brainer, right? But we need more of that. And you could see me as a bit of a conductor of an orchestra of sorts, trying to make utilize all the people on the table and their strengths and their spheres of influence and their capacity to do stuff. So I'm sure a lot of people got frustrated with me because I was a bit of a taskmaster. I had a vision, right? I was like, I want to do this. You can do this. We can do this together. We can make this happen. Like we had at the time, the idea of, I am talking about data here still, Ryan, so that I'm not going too far off track, but to go forward with data, I have lots of ideas about how to collect more data in real time. And I would love to pursue it. I'm actually supercharged about how to make it happen. It's getting the network of influential people together to make that happen. That's the trick, and takes a bit of energy. But there are definitely ways I think that we could get better data, real-time data, happening by sector, which I think would show across the country where the labor market needs are the greatest. And just like, I don't know, do you guys know about GIS? Geographical Information System. So the layering of data in one space. Think about that with HR. Okay, so if you can have all this data in one location, you can actually make decisions that are effective for the sector overall to benefit from. It's powerful stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. I have lots of ideas. I just haven't been focused on the data aspect. But I even think with these webinars, like we have all these people coming. Like for example, March 7th, there's at least 550 people going to be there, because that's what we had last year. And like, let's do some polls. Let's ask some questions. Let's get some real data here. So like, how many men, how many women, just for basic baseline information. Are we talking about men here? Or are we talking about women here? Okay, so we got that. Okay, now who's got issues with being an ally? Like we go through all the roles I'm going to talk to, all these ninja roles I've come up with. Who needs what kind of ninja? You know what I mean? How do we get things flowing? People need to kind of have their own spark of curiosity to go forth and create solutions, innovate, right? It's all about innovating. How do we do so in a way that charges everybody up, and you go back to your teams and you go back to your place, and then you're like, hey, that's such a good idea. I got to do this idea. Just got to bring this guy together and that woman together and this bird. And you just do it, make it happen, right? So we need to create more of those sort of environments where we're gathering data, coming up with some new information in real time, and then thinking, how could I use that to create some new things for solutions to solve the problems we're facing here. That's where you guys come in.
That's our hope.
The next generation.
We look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn though, and checking out your future events, and definitely want to look into your book as well. So it sounds like there's some really interesting stuff to check out in there.
Well, I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always open to chatting. So.
You betcha. Well, thank you so much for your time and bringing your expertise and perspective here today. We really appreciate having you.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, I'll let you get on with the rest of your day here.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.